Okay, so if you're watching me right now, you've definitely seen Greg Doucette's Anabolic French Toast, and maybe you've had it and you're thinking, this could be better. This could be better, it's pretty good, but it could be better. And it 100% can be better. Just stay tuned and let me show you how to make it way better using some methods that Greg Doucette kind of left out. I've done a lot of cooking classes in university and outside of university, so I could definitely help you out. And me and Greg actually went to the same university. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so let's get this going here. Okay, so these are all the ingredients that you need. So I got some basic Dempster's bread here. The more ingredients, the better. The squishier, the better. I mean, the more chemicals, the better. So there's actually a lot of water in this bread. This bread is about 40% water, believe it or not. And one step that Coach Greg leaves out is French toast is supposed to be made with dry bread. So you either leave these pieces of bread out overnight, or like what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to throw them in my trusty air fryer and dry them out for about 10-15 minutes. So after I dry these out, guess what they're going to absorb more of? The egg whites. So egg whites, 90% water. Okay, so if there's already a lot of water in these, that doesn't make sense, right? You want it to absorb more of the egg whites and more of the milk, which we're going to get to in a second. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dry these up in my air fryer just to speed things up a little for about 10-15 minutes. And I'm going to make you guys watch every second of it. Okay, so while that's drying up in the air fryer, I'm gonna start mixing everything here. So you got your egg whites. Obviously, this is the Costco brand, and you're gonna want like 200 milliliters of egg whites and 100 milliliters of milk, so 2 to 1. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in here. So I'm not measuring this just because I've made it so many times. I could just eyeball it. And I'm going to need a tiny bit more egg whites. And it doesn't really matter if you're making too much or too little. It's all going to go in. And here we are with the milk. So I'm using 2%. You could obviously use 0%, 1%, whatever you have on hand. And believe it or not, you will not find a single French toast recipe on the internet that doesn't contain some sort of dairy. So that's Coach Greg's mistake there as well. So no dairy in your French toast. And really, milk is mainly protein. So what's the big deal here? It's going to just lift up your French toast, add so much flavor to it, and there's no reason to not put it in there. Okay, so the next thing here is I'm going to add my sweetener. So for me, my sweetener always has to have some sort of sugar alcohol in it, and what I prefer is erythritol. So this right here is a blend of erythritol with monk fruit. So that's just going to make this so much sweeter, and it's going to taste a lot like sugar because of the erythritol. So if you're using Splenda, try adding a little bit of erythritol to it, which is this right here. This is pure erythritol. And it'll make it way better, way better. So when you're making anything with artificial sweeteners, always add erythritol or real sugar or fruits or whatever, and it'll just make it taste way better. It'll get rid of that aftertaste for the most part. Okay, so we're gonna add this in. So I'm putting in about a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. I don't really care about how much I'm putting in. There's basically 0 calories in this. But I also don't like it to be too sweet. And next we're going to add in some salt. So from what I saw, Coach Greg does not add salt. You want a little bit of salt in there. It's going to really bring out those cinnamon flavors. So you add a tiny bit of salt. And obviously some cinnamon. So cinnamon is actually almost pure fiber. And it's really going to slow down your digestion and slowly release the sugars that come from our bread into your bloodstream. So cinnamon is awesome. helps you stay full, and it tastes amazing. Obviously, without cinnamon, this whole dish would just suck. Okay, so next I'm putting in some pure vanilla extract. My experience with the fake vanilla extract is it just tasted like crap, the one that I bought at least. So I went ahead and bought the pure, real vanilla extract. So this thing was like $15. So I'm gonna put in some here. And to give it a kick, I swear to you, you have to try putting in some sort of hard alcohol. So I've got some Scotch whiskey here, which is like one of my favorite things to add to desserts. You could also use rum or whatever 40% hard liquor that you have, Grand Marnier, whatever you have, add it to it, try it out. It'll really, really enhance the flavors. You have to try that out. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a splash of this. And now we mix. So you want to mix this until all the sugar in there is dissolved, all the fake sugar. And you got a nice even consistency. And you know, obviously this is the Anabolic French toast, but you could increase the calories in this very easily. You could make it with whole eggs. You could make it with a higher fat percentage of milk. And the more fat that's in this, like, let's be honest, the better it's gonna taste. And the nicer the crust on the bread that you're gonna get. So like, I could still get a pretty decent crust on the bread with like my cooking methods, but it's still not gonna taste as good as if you're putting the whole egg in. So, you know, on the weekends, if you wanna cheat a little bit, throw that whole egg in and treat yourself. Why not? You only live once, right? So maybe 1 out of 7 times I make this, you know, make it with whole eggs. Give it a shot, you're not gonna die. You know, make it with milk. Every time that you make it with milk. It'll make it taste so much better. And there you go, that's pretty much dissolved right now. So I'm just gonna wait on the toast there to finish up. And we'll be right back to fry these things up. All right, and we're back. So the bread did not even really need like 10 minutes. It literally got super dry, as you can hear. Like, this bread will crack if I try to bend it. And that's how dry you want it. You want it to be as dry as possible. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna submerge it. And as you can see, it's still really dry. And obviously we want it to absorb as much of that liquid as possible. So it'll suck it up like a sponge in this state. And it's still a little bit dry. It could still use a little bit more soaking. So I'm gonna lower the heat here. You don't want it too high, because what I'm using is actually a butter spray. So this butter flavored spray actually has like some milk proteins in it, so it's gonna burn if you cook it on high, right? So we're gonna go with just under medium here. Gonna spray it. So it's gonna give it a nice butter flavor. And in goes the French toast. So I didn't use my big pan here because it's dirty, but I normally don't put more than 2 toasts in at a time. So why? Well, because you're gonna cool down the pan. Okay, so if you watch Coach Greg make it, he'll just throw it all in the pan, and then that's gonna cool down the pan, and then you're not gonna get a nice crust on the toast. Okay, so you wanna learn how to cook things properly, and that doesn't involve just dumping everything in the pan and turning it on max and hoping for the best. You don't wanna be cooking like that, especially when you're making meat. That's even more important, because you're just gonna end up boiling your meat. So you wanna learn proper cooking techniques and just make things properly, make them taste good, so that you can continue learning how to cook properly, make your own recipes, and just get better and better, and, you know, stay eating healthy. All right. So it's already finished there on one side. So look at that nice crust here. It's not super crusty, but so I usually finish it off with a bit of cinnamon. And you know, the first crust that you make is gonna be a little bit nicer than that second crust that you get from flipping it. So this mix will typically make you about 4 pieces of toast, maybe 5. And obviously you can make way more and just keep it in the fridge. You could really do whatever you want. You could leave a whole bunch of bread out with, you could leave all the bread out exposed to air, so then that way you have all this dry bread ready to go. And a huge mix of French toast batter in your fridge, ready to go. So it's not too hard. So there it is, it's already finished. Maybe a little bit longer on that side. So I got this as my syrup here. Found it at Walmart, $2. And actually it tastes pretty decent. So it's the lowest calorie one they had and actually the tastiest one they had. So we're gonna use some of this syrup here. And you know, it's about finished now. And I'm not gonna bore you cooking my second slice of French toast here. So now, I'm just gonna eat this because I'm pretty damn hungry. So, just gonna grab a piece. Oh, that's hot. Shit. Oh. All right, here we are. Gonna put in some syrup here. And now, the taste test. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you learned how to make proper French toast today. Now I'm not saying you can't learn anything from Coach Greg, but his cooking game is definitely not up there. He needs a little bit of work. But thank God you have me here. Thank God.